Hi guys, we'll begin shortly. Just so you know, on the right hand side of the video there's a little chat box, so you can ask questions and talk to one another in there, and I'll try to answer any questions that I see in there. Hi guys, so we're gonna get started. Like I had mentioned before, on the right hand side there is a chat box, so if you have any questions, please feel free to talk in there and discuss everything. This will probably last maybe a half hour or so. I just really want to go over some main features of Google Docs for those of you that are in the course and are some of the Los Angeles course have already gone through the Google Docs, but some of you at New York will be going into it tomorrow. I'll open up the module and for the next week or two. So we'll begin by opening up our Google page. And at the end, this is really to allow you guys a chance to talk to me directly, since a lot of what we do is just online and chatting back and forth via email and the Google Plus page. So this is so you guys can really ask me direct questions if you have any. So this is our main Google page. There's a couple ways that you can get to Google Docs from here. As we had covered in the previous modules about these little boxes up here, which is kind of like your apps launcher. So if we click on that, we can either get to Google Docs via the Drive, or we can actually click on Docs, the icon. For right now, I'm actually going to click on the Docs, the icon. Usually, to be honest, I always go through Drive because then I can organize my files really nicely. However, I want to show you some features when we click on the icon. So when you click on the icon, it brings you to a page like this. And it's really nice because it gives you options for templates. And you also have all of your latest documents in here as well. If we want to look at some of our templates, it goes through ones that we've used recently, but also we can get a resume, letters, education, so reports, essays, which might be really helpful for your students, class notes, lesson plans, a little bit more formal documents and templates for work. And so you can really choose which one you want. And this allows you to have the heading and the formatting and everything already sorted for you. For right now, I'm just going to use a blank one. So once we open up our document, the first thing we want to do is title it. Because if we don't title it, it's going to be called untitled document. And if we continue to do this, we'll have several untitled documents. So we titled our document. And if we want to change the page layout, we go up to File and then Page Setup. Here we can change it from portrait to landscape. We can change the size, and we can even change the page color, which is really handy. We can also change our margins on the right here. And if we like what we have, and we're going to be using this every time, I know sometimes when I was teaching, I would change my margins to 0.5, 0.75, just so I had more space to put things on the page, because I like to format it that way. If I want to do that, I can just set that as the default, so every time I open a doc, I don't have to do that. I will tell you one thing that I haven't found in Google Docs that I can do in Microsoft Word is being able to change between portrait and landscape within the same document. So if I wanted pages 1 and 2 to be portrait and then page 3 to be landscape, I haven't found a way to do that yet. Once we have decided on this, we're okay with everything, we can go ahead and start putting some information in. So up here, we have our text styles. So we can have normal text, title, subtitle, heading 1, 2, and 3. Our fonts, obviously, and everything up here, which I'm sure you guys know how to use. I'm going to show you right now one of the add-ons, which is really useful, and that will deal with these titles and subtitles and headings. And that is if we were to create a bibliography. Or a table of contents. Say we want a table of contents. So say we are creating an essay and we wanted to structure it with our introduction, by paragraph 1, by paragraph 2, 3, conclusion, and a bibliography. Now I'm going to make all these a heading 1. And then I'm going to separate them on separate pages just to show you. So now that we have them separated on different pages, we can go up to the top and do Insert and go to Table of Contents. And now what you see is all of the headings that we put in the document here in a nice little table of contents. This is extremely useful if you have students and they might get confused, or if you have a really long document or even notes for students and you want them to be able to go specifically to certain pages just by clicking the button on the first page. So say we want to go down to paragraph 2. We just click on it, we're automatically brought there. So if you use this to create a template for maybe as a graphic organizer for students, and then they would fill in the sections as necessary, and it kind of helps them organize and get to certain parts of the document as needed. Does anyone have any questions about creating a table of contents and how this goes? Okay, great. So I'm going to make that a new page, and for those of you that have Macs, I'm not exactly sure, the way I'm just adding a new, knocking the text down to another page is I'm pressing Command Return or Enter, and that automatically does a page break, so it knocks whatever on below that line down to a second page, which is kind of helpful. In order to insert images, we just go to Insert Image. Same thing with links. So say if I want to talk about my virtual reality kits, I can do Insert a link here, or I can do Insert link there. And that's the text that shows. And then the link, you just type in the link and apply it. And then automatically, if you click on it, you'll be brought to the link itself. This would be really useful if you're creating some type of a webinar or a lesson where students have to go out to different links in order to gather information. You can have everything kind of organized for them. So you can say, go to this page or this article, read this, and then come back and fill in some information. Whenever I have my students or fill in information, I always find it's really useful sometimes to have charts or graphic organizers, tables that they can fill in. So in order to create a table, you just go to Insert, Table, and you can have them fill in the table as necessary. So if you do that, you could have them be the question here, and then the answer. If you want to change your font. And then the reason why tables are so helpful is because sometimes if we type the question here, and then a lot of times, even if they're doing it on the computer, we still put in the lines for them. When they go to type, the line gets pushed over and it really kind of messes up all the formatting. So having it in a table kind of keeps it nice and organized and neat. And then we can also change this. So we don't want it to be size 20, obviously. We could change it down to 12 for them. So when they type in here, it is automatically that size. We can also change the formatting of this by highlighting it. We can center it. If we do 2 clicks or a right click on a Windows computer, we can go to Table Properties. And here we can change the border colors. We can change the width or the size of the border. We can change the cell background, and this will only affect what I have highlighted. So I only highlighted the first row, so the color will only affect the first row. And then the vertical alignment is where it sits within the text box. So it's either at the top, it's centered, or it's at the bottom. I always like to center it. And so as you can see, the entire table, the borders all turned blue. However, what I highlighted as the inside the fill was what turned light blue. From the Insert tab, we can also insert equations, which I'll talk about in a second, drawings. So drawings are really useful if you want to do text boxes. So say we insert an image, and from here also you can choose to upload it from your computer by URL. There's a bunch of different ways. You can search on Google Drive, or you can actually search on Google itself. So say I wanted to search for an image of the world. And I'm going to choose this one. And then I select it. And it's always really useful to wrap the text because this way it helps center it and you can kind of move it around the page a little bit easier. So I want to label the contents on this image, on this page, on this document. If I try to start typing, it's not going to work. I obviously can't type on there because the image is there. So what we're going to have to do is go to Insert, a drawing, and then in the drawing you can actually do shapes and different things like that, or you can actually put in a text box. So here I can type North America. If I want the border around it, I can change that here. Oops, sorry. Here's the border. But if I don't, I can do transparent, save and close. Now it's down here. However, remember I said to wrap the text. Since I wrapped the text, I can move it up. And now, since this text is technically an image, I can overlay the two of them. So I can actually kind of put in the text box just like I would in Word and put it over images. I'm going to go down to a new page because from here we can go to Insert and Charts. Charts are a great way to insert, into documents because sometimes you might want to show information in charts, whatever it may be. So we're going to do a column. And obviously this might not be the information that we want to display in this chart. So what you do is you click on it and then see how this little box with an arrow in it, if we click here, it'll bring us to an actual sheet. And so in this sheet, you see periods 1 and periods 2. And that relates to the 2 columns for each one. And then team 1, 2, 3, and 4. And team 1, 2, 3, and 4. The image is also here, the graph that will be displayed in the doc, so you can see it as we change the numbers. So say we did girls and boys, and grade 1, there's 20 and 15, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, and if I change these numbers, you notice that on the graph themselves, it also changes. So there we go. If I want to edit this, and now if I go back to the doc, it now says update because it knows that I changed it in the spreadsheet. So I click update, and it's automatically updated. So this is great for math teachers, even history teachers that want to include some information in graph form, science teachers. And it's also great for students if they are creating a lab report and they have to insert graphs into it, they can do it like this. And it's a great, very simple and easy way to do it. Same thing with graphs, wrap the text, because that way it makes it easier to move them around, just so you know. So I'm going to delete that now. Another great feature of Google Docs that you can access without actually going to the add-ons are equations. So if we go to Insert Equations, we have a whole bunch of equations and symbols that we can add to the doc. So gone are the times of having to type something in and then leave spaces and handwrite it in yourself before you photocopy it. Instead, you can use the equation button. So if we do a new equation, we can do 3 plus 2x divided by 1 equals. And now you have this equation. You can also do the square root of 25, and that shows up as an equation. So things look a lot nicer now with math and with the ability to insert these equations. We have all these different ones. Anyone have any questions so far about anything we've covered? Like I said, this is kind of just like a snapshot of everything. It's like your lessons from the course that have kind of been condensed into a short 30-minute overview of everything. Okay. All right, so why Google Docs is so great and I feel so much better than other ways that you can use publishing tools is because of the sharing and the collaboration feature. So if you were a co-teacher, and if you have a co-teacher, if you share your lessons with other teachers in your school, you can do this by just clicking on the share button. So from here, you can type in your colleague's name, and they can automatically receive this document. So once you share it with them, you can have a couple of options. You can either allow them to edit it, they can just comment on it, so which we'll go over, or they can just view it, so they can't do anything, they can just see the document. This gives them, if you allow them to edit it, you can go back and forth in order to create a document and to really work together and to collaborate even when you're not together physically. So that's why it's really important for co-teachers to have this. It's very, very beneficial. I mentioned the comment feature. The comment feature is extremely useful not only when you're kind of sharing and working on a document together, but also if you have students and you're working on giving them feedback on something. So say you have your students and they wrote this big long essay and you want to give them feedback on it. So your student starts off their paper with, this is my paper on the Revolutionary War. Okay, depending on what grade they are, this might be okay, but say they're in high school, this is not going to be, it's not going to fly, it's not going to be very acceptable. So what we can do is we can go comments, and then we can add a comment. So now we can say, well, what war? Which revolution are you talking about? We need a better opening statement. You need more of a statement. So change your introductory, whatever you want to say. you can comment on it. So this way, you as the teacher can read through their document and make comments as necessary, whether they're spelling, whatever you're focusing on. The student can then reply. So once they get this document, they can then click on it and they can see, well, it's the American Revolution. What should I say? The student might say. Obviously, this would not say educator help again. It would be the student's name, but for demonstration purposes. And then obviously you can keep going back and forth and having a discussion about this, and the thread will stay there. However, say they changed it and they made this wonderful new statement, they can then resolve it. So once it's been resolved, the little highlighted part goes away and the comment's no longer there. However, the comment still is here, so you as a teacher and even your student can kind of see exactly the thread of the comments and the feedback you gave them. So this is really, really helpful and really useful for not only you, but also for them to kind of look back and reflect on the paper while they're going through it. And you can do this for papers, anything. If you're doing science labs, math problems, so since students can actually do math problems and do mathematical equations in Google Docs, if they get an answer wrong or something, or they messed up on a step, you can comment on it and, tell them, this is something's messed up here and you need to change this, which is very useful. Another aspect of this, which is extremely useful, especially if you are sharing a document with multiple students and maybe multiple students have access to edit it, is this button right up here. It says all changes saved to drive. If you click on it, you will see the revision history. So you'll see everything from when it was created to what you just did. And you can always revert back to a later revision. So this will be great if by accident a student is doing up their essay and they just happen to delete it by accident. Instead of having them panic, they can just go to the revision history and go back to the latest saved one. And hopefully that is when they were most likely done. So that's good. And especially if you have multiple students working on something, it's a great kind of way to see who's doing what. Are there any questions so far with this? Okay. The last thing that we are going to briefly touch upon and talk about. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we get into that, there are a couple awesome. I forgot about the tools. So obviously you have the spelling tool. You have your research tool, where you can search for different topics. So say we want to search 13 colonies. You can actually pull up information right here. So if students are typing up their essay on the side here, they can actually do some research and have them right next to each other, which is really beneficial for students that might struggle with switching between tabs up here. So you have your research tool. You have your define tool. So if there's a difficult word and a student doesn't know how to use it or doesn't understand what the word is, they can search for it right here. So say there's revolution. They don't know what the word is, they can use it right there and they can look it up. And this might be useful if you provide the students with a lesson or an online document and they're reading it and they don't understand the word is. They can just look it up right there. Some other very important things is the voice tool. So this is great, especially for ESL students or students that might struggle with typing. This allows you, if you click on it, as you talk, it will put in the words for you. It would type them out. Obviously, you have to speak very clearly, and sometimes it will not always catch exactly what you were saying, but you can always go back and revise it and edit it as needed. Click it again and it will turn off. And then finally, the translate document. You can take a document that you created and then translate it to a different language. So this is amazing and extremely useful for students, teachers, for parents, for really anyone that you might have that you speak a different language and you might not be able to translate the document yourself. Now, I'm not fluent in Spanish or another language, so things might be grammatically incorrect sometimes, but I think for the most part it'll get the meaning across. So it's better than having it in a language that they cannot understand. Obviously, when you do this, you need to change the document title. It'll just come up as translated document. But if you want to change it to Spanish copy, Mandarin copy, or whatever it may be, change your language. If you want to change to Dutch, translate. And as you can see, this is translated. This is translated. This didn't translate, and North America didn't translate. I'm assuming this didn't translate North America because it was a text box, so Google might not have been able to pick up that it was a text and not an actual image. But anything else that was written, you see did translate. So the final thing we're going to go through are the add-ons. And add-ons are what make all Google apps so much more than just a doc, a sheet, a slide. It makes it everything more. Everything is so much more. It's why I love Google Docs. Aside from the sharing and collaboration aspect of it, it makes everything so much better. So the add-ons are basically add-ons or additional applications that you can get to enhance your productivity and your working with the Google Docs. Each app has its own add-ons. Some add-ons can work with different, there's a Gmath for Google Docs and there's also a Gmath for Sheets. However, just because you have downloaded the Gmath for Docs doesn't mean it's automatically in your Sheets one. So it's important to know. So you have your add-ons. If you go to Get Add-ons, you can see that there's hundreds of different add-ons that you can get. Don't worry about this taking up memory. It will just kind of sit in Google. It doesn't actually, if you get a bunch of add-ons, it doesn't disrupt your internal storage or your memory or anything about that. So don't worry about that. So in order to get an add-on, you just see it. It gives you a little description of it. You can click on it for some screenshots and some more information, some reviews, to really get the full sense if you want it or not. If you don't want it, you can get rid of it. So don't think that just because you got an add-on, you're stuck with it for life. Don't worry about it. So you click on free. Allow. Now, if you go back up to add-ons, it's now there. Easy. So say I said I had a sentence. Declaration of Independence was signed in July 1776. Say I wanted to cite it. I can go to add-ons, EasyBib, manage bibliography. And then from here, you can choose a book, a journal, or a website. So I know this is not the actual citation of where it is, but say I wanted to cite it from history.com. I search for it. Oh, here it is. Select it. Whenever I click, add bibliography. And it's automatically gone to the last page in the document. And so now I have a running tally of my books that I've used, my articles, my websites, whatever it may be. Say you want to cite John Locke. I can select one, add bibliography, and there it is at the bottom. It's also important to note that you can change the style up here. So if you want to stay with APA, MLA, Chicago, whatever you or your school has a preference for. There are other add-ons out there for adding citations, but I really like EasyBib because it has the journal aspect and the website aspect, so it allows you to cite right from those. Some other useful add-ons are lucid chart diagrams. In here, you can insert diagrams. So instead of creating graphic organizer diagrams, whatever you want to do, Venn diagrams, you can just use lucid chart and it will automatically create it for you. If you click on create, and then we also have GMath. So it just it's similar to the equations, but it has a little bit more features that you can use. So you can create math expressions, graphs, a statistical display, handwriting entry. So if you have a touch computer and you can actually handwrite it, it'll automatically turn it into math, into equations. And then PaperPile also does citations as well, which are very useful. If we want to manage our add-ons, so say we decide we didn't want EasyBib anymore, we can go to here, you can manage it, you can remove it, and now it's no longer there. So if you get a whole bunch of add-ons at first, just to go through and see which ones you like, you can then go through and remove any ones that you don't use. So this has been about 40 minutes. It's been a little bit longer than I originally anticipated, so I'm very sorry about that. But I'm going to stay online in case anyone has any questions. Please feel free to write them in the chat and I will respond to them. For those of you that are within New York for the ASPDP, I will have Module 2 open tomorrow morning. So you guys can get a head start on that and start working on that over the weekends. And that will be open for about 2 weeks or so. Please take this survey just so I can get some feedback and we can for the next one. And I will answer any questions that you may have. If you're all set, you are free to go. And I will talk to you guys online or just shoot me an email. I'll talk to you on Google+. Thanks so much. Bye.